Now that the 2025-2026 offseason is in full swing, seeing Ryan Yarbrough get a one-year deal from the New York Yankees, things are finally starting to move again, however slowly it is. And during these gaps in signings, Major League Baseball just dropped the Hall of Fame class for 2026, and there are 6 potential Yankee Hall of Famers. I'm gonna break down each and every single one of their chances of making the Hall and whether or not I would put them in. What's going on, guys? King of 161st shit. I'm back another video, and the Hall of Fame, although a very objective thing, they are either in or they're out. It is very subjective when talking about who you think deserves or doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And that comes up big for a lot of guys that I'm going to be talking about today. Starting off with a big one, Bobby Abreu, a guy who played for the Yankees at a time in the late 2000s, not 2009, sort of post-prime of his career. Throughout his major league career, he put up a .291 batting average with a .395 on-base percentage, .475 slugging, equated out to a 129 WRC plus and 59.7 F-WAR. So Bobby Abreu right now is on that cusp of surefire Hall of Famer just by his WAR. A lot of people see that benchmark as 60 or above. Him at 59.7, I see him making it at some point. No singular season fully stands out for him. Doesn't have a huge home run total at 288, so he didn't really hit some of these benchmarks that you would want to see out of a hitter outside of just accumulating so much F-WAR that it becomes undeniable. I don't see it for 2026, but I could definitely see Bobby Abreu making it, maybe in his 3rd or 4th year on the ballot, because there's nothing standing out about Bobby Abreu. Only a 2-time All-Star, only has 1 Gold Glove on his resume, has a Silver Slugger and a Home Run Derby championship. There's no MVPs, no batting titles. He doesn't have some of these accolades that you would look for in a Hall of Famer. But again, he has accumulated so much over the years that he did play from 1996 to 2014. At some point, voters will look at his name on the resume, look back on the baseball card and say, wow, maybe he does deserve to get in. But I don't think he gets in first ballot, even though I totally hate the idea of someone being deserving and not getting in first ballot. If they are deserving, just put them in. I don't care about, oh, this guy's not a first ballot guy, or this guy's definitely more of a latter half of the ballot guy. If they deserve it, get him in. The problem with Bobby Abreu is it's borderline whether he deserves it. So I think voters are going to take a couple years to really analyze whether or not he is among some of the greats of this sport. Moving on to the first of the first-year candidates on this list, Edwin Encarnacion has entered the Hall of Fame candidacy, putting up 424 home runs in his career, a .260 batting average with a .350 on base, .496 slug, averaging out to a 125 WRC plus, and only accumulating 33.5 WAR. Encarnacion, if you could remember back in 2019, was a trade deadline acquisition and gave the Yankees some premium at-bats late in that season, a season where the Yankees were looking to win a championship. He did give us some valuable at-bats in a Yankees uniform, but looking at his resume and the stats that I have provided, 424 home runs is nothing to scoff at. He definitely put up some great home run total, but Edwin Encarnacion is only a 3-time All-Star, along with the fact he only put up a 33.5 F-WAR. Yes, WAR does take defense into account, and he was mainly a DH/first baseman. You're not going to accumulate much at those spots. But if you're not going to accumulate defensively, the offense has to take over to a point where you still get to the 50s to 60s. If I said Bobby Abreu was sort of a borderline guy that'll get in late in his ballot, I don't see a world where Edwin Encarnacion is even considered, and I'm assuming that Edwin Encarnacion will have the same fate as Hideki Matsui, will be off of the ballot the first year he's on it. That's no disrespect to his career. He had such a career that he was even part of the candidacy for the Hall of Fame. They considered his name. That's a huge honor in itself. He just didn't do enough in the sport to warrant being among the greats of the sport. Now we're getting into a spicy one, at least in my opinion. Carlos Beltran, who played parts of the mid-2010s with the Yankees, in his career put up 435 home runs, a 279 batting average, a 350 on base with a 486 slugging, only putting up a 118 WRC plus, but an FWAR of 67.4. And this is why I say this is very interesting. This is the first test case of those Houston Astros players who cheated. Will the Houston Astros players that were a part of such a scandal, will they get punished by not making the Hall of Fame? Will voters actually take that stand? In my opinion, I think the sign stealing scandal is worse than steroids, because at least with steroids, you still had to be good at baseball to succeed. When you know what pitch is coming, half the battle's already done for you. Steroids do not complete that battle. They do not complete the battle of an at-bat. Steroids do not tell you what pitch is coming. Steroids do not give you pitch recognition. Steroids do not give you the ability to get back to ball. You defeated half of that battle when you bang on that trash can 2 times to know you're getting a changeup. And it led to a World Series championship. But that's my opinion on it. It seems like the public has gotten over this so quickly to the point where some of these guys are getting revered still. It's become a forgotten story, and maybe this is a plan by Major League Baseball, because this sport has gained so much popularity over the past couple years, trying to regain what it had back in the early 2000s, where baseball was America's sport. It's starting to get back there, seeing the ratings of Game 7 of the World Series. It's definitely eclipsed what basketball is today. Not on the level of football yet, but we can get it there. So maybe Major League Baseball is looking at that sign stealing scandal and saying, if we don't talk about it, these new fans won't talk about it. And you don't want your sport to be smeared by cheating accusation, by having the fairness and the competition of the sport come into jeopardy and come into question. And this is a perfect test case, because outside of that scandal, Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Famer. 435 home runs, 67.4 FWAR. That's a Hall of Fame career right there. He hit some of the benchmarks you want. He hit that 60 WAR benchmark, almost guarantees you a Hall of Fame bid. I think he's getting in no matter what, and it's probably going to be on this first ballot. But there is that inkling of doubt based on what happened in 2017 and the fact that he was the ringleader of. Things could get dicey. I don't expect it to get too dicey. Carlos Beltran is a Hall of Famer. Now we are getting to someone who should already be in the Hall of Fame, but for some reason is being disrespected, and that is Andruw Jones. Andruw Jones, over the course of his career, 434 home runs, a 254 batting average, a 337 on base percentage, a 486 slugging percentage, which only equated out to a 111 WRC plus. You may say that doesn't sound that impressive, but he still put up a 67 FWAR. Why is that? Because he was one of the best defensive players of the 2000s. Andruw Jones in center field was one of the best defenders the sport has ever seen. There didn't seem to be a ball he couldn't get to. And this is where the defensive conversation has to be involved. And I'm assuming part of why Andruw Jones is getting disrespected by these voters is based on the fact that he doesn't have these standout accolades. Outside of having over 400 home runs, he doesn't have any standout accolades to go along with. Andruw Jones is a 5-time All-Star, a 10-time Gold Glove winner, and a 1-time Silver Slugger Award winner. Those 10 Gold Gloves, those were well fucking earned. But as you see, there's no MVPs on his ballot, only 5 times as an All-Star in his entire career from 1996 to 2012. That's not a lot. Only made it in 2000, 2002, 2003, 2005, and 2006. And he ended his career in New York in 2011 and 2012. And I know a lot of Yankees fans are going to be watching this and saying, wait a sec, good defender. When he came to New York, his defense was ass. Well, you also have to remember he was 34 and 35 in those years. This was the twilight of Andruw Jones's career, which started at age 19. In 2011 for the Yankees, he did put up an .851 OPS, so it's not like his hitting was that bad when he came over. 2012 is when he fell off a total cliff, and that's when he decided to hang him up. But throughout his career, especially his time in Atlanta, from 1996 to 2007, he was one of the most fun players to watch, and he was one of the best defenders this sport has ever seen. That, along with the fact in 2005 he put up a 51 home run season and has 400 home runs to his ledger, he should be a no-brainer Hall of Famer. And if we are going to talk about the first ballot guys, what about this resume is not first ballot? Outside of the award, he doesn't have an MVP, only has 5 All-Stars in however many years, whatever. Looking at his career for what it was, looking at the back of the baseball card, what about what he did in his career does not scream Hall of Fame? You can't name a hole outside of maybe his Yankees tenure, which a lot of players have terrible ends to their career. You don't always get the ceremonious ending that Derek Jeter got. A lot of guys hang on for way too long and then fizzle out of the sport. But what Andruw Jones did through his career, that is a Hall of Famer. And to not put him in is a disgrace by the Baseball Writers Association. The next guy is a guy who will be debated about for a while. A guy who has a Hall of Fame resume, but has some PED background that may keep him out, and it's Andy Pettitte. Andy Pettitte, in 531 games in Major League Baseball, 521 of them that he started. 3,316 innings pitched with an ERA of 3.85 and a WAR of 68.2. Andy Pettitte was one of the most dominant pitchers throughout the entire 2000s. I don't think anyone can deny stats alone and the player of Andy Pettitte. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He did have a scandal where he admitted openly to using HGH to heal from an injury. A lot of voters are going to look at that and say, hell no. You openly, not just used, you openly used, which is to a lot of people a form of advocacy for steroids in Major League Baseball. And I'm 50-50 on whether or not he will make it. I think out of all the steroid users out there, the Roger Clemens, A-Rod, Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, I think Andy Pettitte is probably one of the more sympathetic characters. The fact that he did openly come out and admit to using it, admit to only using it to help him heal from an injury so he can get back on the field. He is someone who could seem sympathetic to some of these newer voters coming in who have a little bit of a lighter stance on steroids because this newer generation is starting to realize steroids did not make the player. They help, but they did not make the player. The player was already that good. I would put him in 100%. Part of that is Yankees bias because I really want to see Andy Pettitte get his flowers for what his career was. I truly don't know if he's going to get in ever. We're going to have to wait and see. And last, but certainly not least, the most controversial figure in Major League Baseball history almost, Alex Rodriguez. Guys, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. I don't think he's ever getting it. In terms of steroid-using hitter, if they're not going to allow Barry Bonds in, and they're not going to allow Sammy Sosa in, and they're not going to allow all these guys, but specifically Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds is the best hitter that Major League Baseball has ever seen. If he is not allowed in because he used steroids at the latter part of his career, Alex Rodriguez has zero chance of making it to the Hall of Fame. Zero. It's done. His career numbers are fantastic. 696 home runs, 295 batting average with a 380 on base percentage, 550 slugging percentage, coming out to a 141 WRC plus and 113.6 WAR. A-Rod's career on paper is one of the top 10 careers of all time. But if number 1 is not getting in because of the same issues that number 10 has, why would number 10 leapfrog number 1? There's just no reason for it. Would I put him in? I just said I would put in some of these steroid users because steroids did not make the player. The player made the player. It's as simple as that for me. Baseball writers have set a precedent, and as long as Barry Bonds stays out, no other steroid user has a case because Barry Bonds is at the pinnacle of the sport. Better hitter than Babe Ruth. better hitter than anyone ever in Major League Baseball. If he can't get in because of steroids, A-Rod has zero chance. All these guys have zero chance. Sammy Sosa will never get in. Mark McGwire will never get in. And it sucks because these guys are the pinnacle of baseball history. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think A-Rod is actually going to get enough votes? Do you think Andrew Jones finally gets what he deserves? Is anyone else on this list making it to the Hall of Fame? Let me know down below. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Hopefully this offseason starts to pick up. I brought up earlier that Ryan Yarbrough was signed. Hopefully that starts a domino effect, and by December, we start getting some of these big dogs onto these teams. But anyways, I'm out of here. Take care and peace.